interesting, maybe like past year or so. Maybe you can give people some update on what's been going on with you.
So in January, I traveled to California to pitch a bunch of investors, and I got a blister on my toe, and I didn't think anything of it because I was Ubering everywhere, and I was in a hotel, and it was an in and out visit. And when I took my shoe off in the hotel that night, my sock was completely wet with blood. So instead of taking an Uber to get some peroxide and doing something with it, I just took a shower, changed the sock, and went on my way. Didn't think anything of it. Like I said, it was an in and out visit. I was there just for a few days, actually 2 days. And I think I saw you there because we were doing the carotid artery test and all that sort of stuff. And by the time I got home, I walked in my house, I fell on the floor, and my wife said I started talking in tongues. Wow. Like I was like delirious. So she couldn't lift me up. She called the ambulance. They took me to the hospital. When I went into the ER, they did some blood work, and there was a high level of tropin in my blood, which is an indication that your heart is struggling. The doctor goes to me, "You have heart failure." I says, "That's fucking impossible. I was just in the gym like a day or so ago. If I had heart failure, I would have fucking died in the gym." Can I curse?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So he goes back and he looks, and then he comes back. He goes, he goes, "You've got a bad case of sepsis, infection in your blood." So they put me in the hospital. I'm in there for 11 days, and they say, you're all better. You can go home now. But they were giving me intravenous antibiotic the whole time, and that got me better. When they sent me home, they sent me home with an oral antibiotic that didn't work. So I got reinfected. And the reinfection was worse than the initial infection because it infected a bunch of discs in my spine. It also infected my mitral valve. Like they're telling me you're gonna have to have a heart valve replacement and all this. So they put me back on an antibiotic, intravenous, and it clears up, and they say I'm all better. But this time they send me home with intravenous antibiotic to take it home, and it cleared. That was it. It was over. But I had to go into the hospital in March. I think it was March 14th to have the infection scraped from the vertebrae in my spine. And that's like the worst spine surgery you can have. And I couldn't walk. I couldn't stand. I couldn't get out of a chair. And I'm just now walking without a walker. And I'm going to the gym a couple times a week. I'm going to physical therapy once a week, but I'm far, far from where I was. I lost 65 pounds of nothing but muscle. And the doctor said that's probably why I lived, because few people live with two infections back to back. Mm. He said, and there's a study that says my life expectancy after this is just 4 more years. So, like, I'm not fucking worried about it. I know I'm going to live more than 4 years. But there were moments in this past 6 months where I actually thought it would have been a lot easier to just die, because I'm in pain all the time. My back is in pain all the time. And I'm emotionally and mentally in pain because when I was doing Superhuman Radio, there was a point in time where I realized I was strong, and I started to say I was nothing before I was strong, because I felt that way. When I was a kid, I lived in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, very rough neighborhood, and I wasn't a tough kid. Thank God I had a sense of humor, so I had a lot of friends, but I got picked on all the time. I remember some kid stole my sneakers on the bus because I convinced my mother to buy me brand new PF flyers. They were better than Keds. Obviously, they were a lot better than Chuck Taylor's. And I was a big kid. Like I was 6 foot and 200 pounds when I was 12 years old. And this kid said to me, "What size shoes you wearing?" Like an idiot, I go, "Oh, they're 9.5." He goes, "Take them off." I said, "No." He slapped me across the face. And I sat down and took them off and gave them to him. So I wasn't a tough kid, but all of a sudden, I used to go to the gym and people would point at me like, look what he's doing. And I felt like somebody. And now I truly don't feel like anybody anymore.
Yeah, I've seen some of those videos of some of those weights that you were lifting. And I was impressed because, I was watching like the setup, you had all these plates on there. And I was like, okay, normally when someone has all these plates on there and they're setting up on some of these squat machines, they do like a quarter squat. And I would still say bravo to that. But you were getting down pretty damn good on a lot of those squats. And hey, it looked like your legs were really strong and stuff. And I know before that time, you weren't necessarily a fitness person. So it was even more impressive because it was later in your life that you got into exercise, right?
So I got into weightlifting and I wasn't a competitor. So in other words, I wasn't trying to hit weights and get in and do it. I did it for me. I just liked lifting heavy. When you were lifting that bag, I understood what you said about how you loved that. I did it because of the way it made me feel.
Right.
And the reality is that nothing ever made me feel like that. The other thing I did it for, and I'm going to be honest, because I really don't know any other way. I loved the drugs. I loved Trenbolone. I mean, Trenbolone. I remember going into gyms at a.
This is why you're on the show, Carl Lanore.
What?
I said, this is why you're on the show.
I love Tren. I mean, Tren I used to say, took me hostage. I didn't feel like doing the work. And all of a sudden I pulled fucking weights I couldn't never pull. And it's true. I still did the work. I mean, like Louis Simmons once said, I never saw a bottle of testosterone lift any weight. Right. I still did the work, but I come from the drug culture. I'm 67 now. I'm still using gear. In fact, I credit it with me coming back faster. I'm coming back a lot faster than anybody realized that I could. And I think it's because I'm doing around 600 milligrams a week of test, a blend of test, and a little bit of NPP.
Yeah, let's talk about this more. So maybe fill in people on what NPP is. Not everyone's super familiar, but you're on test, NPP, and if you can give us maybe some of the other things that you found to be effective while you've had this infection, and because like you were on death's door a couple times here, I think, right?
Yes,
and
I was.
I was about.
I had friends coming to the hospital. I had friends coming to the hospital and then coming home and telling people he's not going to make it.
I was going to come to see you.
I told you not to.
You said, right. If you come out here, I'm going to kick your ass. So I
didn't want anyone to see me like that.
I understand.
That's really all it was. Because even Ron said it. I said, Ron, I just don't want anybody to see me.
Ron and I are ready to push a button to book a ticket like in a second to come see you.
Right.
Because we love you. And we want to see you, come out the other end. And we know how much it can mean to somebody when they're in the hospital like that. But anyway, let's get back to your stack here, more importantly.
So the most I ever did a week was about 2,400 milligrams of injectables. I did 2 grams of test, 1 gram of Deca. That backfired because I still got Deca dick. Because I thought it would, 2 grams of test, and 400 milligrams of Tren and Anthate, long-acting Tren. I didn't like I have to shoot it daily, the Tren Ace. And I even made my own Tren. I got the pellets. I used ether to separate them. I mean, I did all that shit at home, cooked it off. And thank God my ex-wife didn't understand what I was doing. But
like Breaking Bad at your house.
I love the drugs. I really do. I grew up in the drug era, right? I grew up where cocaine, and I even snorted a little heroin back in the day because I worked at the racetrack, and I had a trainer who couldn't pay me. So he said, "This will hold you over for the weekend." He gave me a little tinfoil thing. I opened it up. It looked like coffee grinds. and it smelled like vinegar. I said, what's this? He goes, it's Mexican brown. I said, why does it smell like vinegar? He says, they put vinegar on it so the dogs don't smell it.
Oh.
And I started snorting heroin. I never shot it. I never, that was a line I drew. Like, I'm not going to shoot it. But I was part of the drug culture. And there's that song that came out in the 90s, I Do It for the Drugs. Like, and that's when I was really lifting heavy. And I used to play that song in my headset. I do it for the drugs. But I you know what? There's people out there trying to create longevity supplements. Androgens are fucking longevity supplements. You give an old guy some test, he'll live longer. He'll eat more. He'll want to move more. It's amazing. And we all act like as though, oh, this is so harmful. Fuck that. Statin drugs are harmful. You know, testosterone's not harmful.
Yeah, they say that a man without purpose is a man that ends up doing a lot of things just for pleasure. And so, like, as you get older, it's like, what do you have to look forward to other than like eating crappy food or whatever, right? Or maybe having some alcohol or whatever it might be. And if you're on a little bit of testosterone, maybe lifting weights and stuff like that sounds more enticing to you.
Yeah, because if you find out all of a sudden, wow, I'm strong, I'm still strong, like I'm still young, that means.
Right. What's the stack that you're on now to try to get you on the mend?
One of the most important peptides that no one cares about, and the ones that do care about it are using it all wrong. And that's Thymosin Beta 4. If you look at the research, Thymosin Beta 4 should be, first of all, TB 500 is not Thymosin Beta 4. Just the way ricotta cheese is not lasagna. Like, it's just an ingredient. That's all it is.
Oh, right.
And so you got to use real Thymosin Beta 4 to see the magic. I had a stroke. My fault. I was using orals. I never used orals, but I started using some D-Bol and Anavar, and I was using high doses. My blood got real thick. My blood pressure got high, and I had a stroke. I had that in
2022 or something, 3?
4, either 4 or 3. I'm sorry. I've been sick so often lately that it's kind of bleeds together. But I had this stroke. I was at home. Elisa reconstituted a vial of Thymosin Beta 4 because we did shows about this on Superhuman Radio. If you get 5 milligrams within like a few hours of having an ischemic event of any kind, heart attack, stroke, it completely reverses it. So I talked about it, but I never depended on it. I was having the stroke. I was completely paralyzed on the left side of my body. Elisa realized I was having a stroke because my face was drooping and I was slurring my words. So she had the cognizance to get the vial out and reconstitute it. And I just took the whole vial. It was 5 milligrams or 6 milligrams. And we called the ambulance. And while the ambulance is coming, I said, I'm talking better. And I get in the ambulance. They had to carry me out on a gurney. I get in the ambulance. The guy says, I want to check your blood pressure one more time because it was really high. That's from the orals. And I never fucked with orals for that reason. People fuck with orals because they're afraid to stick their ass with a needle. That doesn't bother me. So he says, I'm going to check your blood pressure one more time. I lifted my arm. I said, I just moved my arm. He goes, oh, you didn't have a stroke. You had a TIA, a transient ischemic episode or event, whatever they call it. And they said the same thing when I got to the hospital, because by the time I got to the hospital, I was completely normal. Wow. I could walk again. They said, oh, you didn't have a stroke. They did an MRI with contrast. They said, holy shit, you not only had an ischemic stroke, but you had hemorrhagic. There's all blood in the lobe of your brain. You had a fucking stroke. I was home in 3 days. They said, usually around the 3rd day, we start getting you out of bed to teach you how to walk again. Wow. Like, they couldn't believe it. I didn't say a word because I didn't want the insurance company to say, oh, we're not covering this guy. He's fucking around with shit. So, but yeah, I mean, peptides are amazing. But the problem is people are using too little because they're expensive.
Thymosin Beta 4, what does it do? Like, what are some of the key points?
So one of the most amazing studies. Okay, so first thing it does is it sequesters actin, so it stops fibrosis, scar tissue, and it actually reverses scar tissue. Like when I went in and had my MRI follow-up, they couldn't find the scar from where the hemorrhage and stuff happened. It was gone. And so it sequesters actin, it keeps scar tissue from building up, and it reverses the existing scar tissue, which is very very important, because as we get old, we get a lot of fibrous tissue, makes us stiff, makes our muscles tear. So that's one thing. The other important thing is it triggers neonatal genes to turn back on. I've been saying this for years, and then we finally found the study that proves I'm right. There's a study on premature rats born too early, and the thymosin beta 4 made them catch up to their full-term litter mates like in a week or two. Boom. So it can rebuild organs. It has the information necessary to turn the right genes on. So it's really important for us older guys. And you only have to do it like 5 or 6 milligrams once a week. That's all you have to do. I'm using a little more.
Does it seem to help with stiffness and pain? Like, do you kind of feel better when you take it?
It's a powerful anti-inflammatory. No one realizes this. It's like a you know what else is a powerful anti-inflammatory that I discovered after digging some research, and I'm starting to use it again? Melanotan 2. There are 5 different melanotan receptors. They all turn down inflammation. And melanotan 2 crosses the blood-brain barrier. So that's important.
I know you've liked that one for heart health even. You said in small dosages you think it's good for the heart.
Not only good for the heart, but it helps to reduce plaque. There's a study with rodents and melanotan 2, and the study is on my website, SuperTraining Radio, which is inactive now, but the blog post is still there, that it actually reverses plaque buildup and makes the body reabsorb the calcium. So it can reverse arteriosclerosis.
It's basically like getting a dosage of the sun in to some extent, right? But like from the inside out almost.
The only thing I can't find is any evidence that it activates vitamin D production. For that, you really do need the sun.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I actually had my friend David Herrera. He was actually mentioning that it could potentially result in your vitamin D levels registering as like a little bit lower. But he's like, if you pair it with the sun, you should be fine.
The other thing that it does is, I got to think of his name now. He's a really brilliant bodybuilder. And we've had discussions about an increase in iron absorption.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's important too.
Ferritin. Ferritin is a protein produced in the liver. And it's not only produced in the presence of sun. In fact, if you take high doses of vitamin C, it'll increase ferritin production without increasing iron intake. Ferritin is a protein that bonds to iron and shuttles it around the body to different tissue. So, and I think there's probably some evidence that too much iron is no good if you don't have enough ferritin to sequester it. And there is now evidence that higher levels of iron made our ancestors live longer. It improved, contrary to popular belief, it improved longevity. And probably those of us who stayed in the sun a lot, we come from darker ancestors because we increased melanin production to help control D production. Like people with dark skin must be in the sun longer than people with fair skin. We also have a binding protein that we produce that keeps attached to D to keep it from being nefarious, because too much D is no good either. But anyway, so yeah, I think that the sun, on a variety of different horizons, increases longevity, and the sun is not responsible for your skin cancer. It's what you eat that is responsible for that. People say that's bullshit. No, the sun is an unwilling participant in the development of skin cancer. It's what you eat that becomes photoactive from the sun and turns on cancer genes. So,
and potentially just, people going out and just getting completely wrecked by the sun. Like the sun can be dangerous when the UV is really high and you don't have the skin protection for it. You got to use your brain. You're going to need clothes. You need to find shade. You need to do all kinds of precautions.
Real vitamin A will protect you from getting cancer in the sun. Retinol, retinoic acid. In fact, there's a good study out there that shows that the sun depletes vitamin A in the skin. And those people end up getting cancer. So you can load up on real vitamin A. Not beta carotene. That's bullshit. That's not real vitamin A. Real vitamin A comes from liver, or retinol tablets. That will protect you from developing cancers in the sun. And if anybody doubts this, I'm not going to do your research. Go to the PubMed and just Google the words retinoic acid or retinol and skin cancer. You'll find these studies. They're there. They've been done decades ago. They're not new.
This tanning where the sun don't shine thing that was popular maybe just a couple years ago.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of truth to that. Like you're supposed to get the sun everywhere. So I mean, there was people.
But believe me, the guys that were doing that, laying on their back and holding their taint up to the sun, that's not the way. That's not it. No. Direct sunlight to skin that's never seen sun for generations. Right. Not a good idea.
But naked or next to naked.
Naked you have reflected sun. You're going to have reflected sun off of the sun, ground. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, because I was talking with Ron Penna about this the other day, and he was talking about, people think tanning beds are dangerous a lot of times because of some of the UV that you get from that. But he was saying the tanning bed for him and his wife, he had something along with vitamin D tested. I forget exactly what it was, but he had it tested, and him and his wife were the only ones that had this because everybody else isn't getting tan everywhere, and so getting sunlight.
Sulfate. Ron was very interested in D sulfate.
Right.
I created a supplement years ago, but it didn't work. It was D in a spray bottle with some DMSO. So it would get into the skin, but you couldn't put enough on your skin to raise your D level. So it was a backfire. But the concept was good. To make D in the skin is the way it should be done from the sun. And Stephanie Seneff from MIT, who is kind of a D expert, she told us that sulfated vitamin D is more important than plain vitamin D. But Ron proved her wrong.
What were some of those foods that you think are, maybe the offenders of people getting, skin cancer and stuff like that?
Anything with artificial sweeteners, colors, or chemicals in them. Because everything you eat gets into every cell in your body. That's how they did the vitamin A studies on sun exposure. They gave people vitamin A tablets. They measured their skin levels of vitamin A before sun exposure and after, and they showed that it was depleted. It dropped in the sun. So you take more. Everything you eat gets into your skin, every cell of your body, really. And if any of them are able to turn on oncogenes, cancer genes, that's not a good idea. Some of them respond to photoactivation from the sun, which makes them even worse. It means if you're eating those foods and laying on the beach, that's a time bomb.
When you're going to the gym now, how are you starting to feel? Are you starting to feel a little stronger and stuff?
A couple of days ago was the first day I walked out of the gym and actually felt good.
Good, good.
I'm following one of your edicts. Just go in and do what you like to do. I'm not trying to build any particular body part.
Yeah, screw all the working on your weakness stuff. Like do what calls to you, do what you like, do what you enjoy for now, you know, and then maybe some other time you can work on your weaknesses. But
I'm training back. I'm doing pull downs and heavy. I'm doing pressing movements. I do a push pull routine one day, and then the next day I come in and I do something that activates my legs a little bit more. So yeah, I'm going nice and easy, and I am getting stronger, and I can see between the level of androgens I'm using and the exercise, it's promoting muscle growth. There's no doubt about it. My shoulders are getting big and round again, but I'm just trying to feel good. That's all. I go to the gym now. Like I can only train for 30 minutes. I'm exhausted after that. But that's because I'm giving, and and I was doing a 5x5, so now I'm doing 3 sets of 15. So I'm using a little lighter weight, but I'm using higher reps, and I change up every now and then.
is it hard to like breathe? Like, is your respiratory system and everything
No,
compromised? Kind of no.
it works fine. I thought I was going to have a hard time with the 15 reps thing. In fact, I was shooting for 10, and then you know how it is. I think I could do 12.
Right.
Fuck it. I think I could do 15, and I did 15. I was like, I'm just going to shoot for 15 reps. That's all. And I'm doing old school, 3 sets. It's really not enough volume, but it makes me feel good. That's all.
Yeah, it's a good start. Are you primarily using machines, or are you kind of mixing it up?
I'm trying to mix it up now because I have to do ground-based stuff. Because the antibiotics, and so here's another thought. I had a mild case of neuropathy, like mild. It didn't keep me from walking. I could walk a couple miles, no big deal. Well, after I got treated, the antibiotics gave me a much worse case of neuropathy. In fact, my feet are fucking numb. And so I have very little proprioception. I walk, I tell people I'm not drunk. I had sepsis. They look at me walking and they think I'm a day drinker. But it's hard for me to walk. But that's improving slowly. It is. And it made me realize that they call it diabetic neuropathy. I haven't been diabetic. I mean, my blood glucose levels are like fucking 70 in the morning. And I go to the gym and train fasted. I'm convinced that the neuropathy that people are suffering from, they may be diabetic, but that's not what's causing the neuropathy. I think they have really horrible gut microbiome. And maybe they drink coffee, which I'm drinking one today, but I stopped drinking it because coffee has been proven to open the junctions in the stomach and give you leaky gut. And stuff leaks into the bloodstream, and it attacks the myelin sheath on the nerve, and it gives you neuropathy. You don't have to have raging. I know a lot of people that do not have type 2 diabetes or have it, or have they ever, but yet they have neuropathy. Neuropathy is a problem in today's society. And I think red light helps. I just started doing red light. I think things that grow nerves like the Thymosin Beta 4 and growth hormone, those things help a lot. But yeah, it's slow moving. If you don't get, if in fact coffee or something you're doing to your microbiome is causing it, you have to stop that before you start taking things or it won't work. People think, oh, ARA 290. I did the show on that, I don't know how many years ago. But it does improve small fiber nerve growth. And people were buying it under the name Sabinitide or ARA 290, and they're taking fucking hundreds of dollars worth, and they're going, it's not working. Well, Have you stopped drinking coffee? Have you
Mm.
looked at your gut? Have you checked your gut out? Like, have you tested it? In fact, Bill Davis, who's very popular today, he's like a gut expert.
Yeah, I've had Bill on the show before. He's great.
He was on my show in 2013 when he was the track your plaque guy, and he was saying bread causes plaque buildup. People need to stop eating grains. I'm going to reach out to him and ask him to review my tests to see what my gut is missing and what it has that needs to go.
Yeah, he wrote the book Wheat Belly. I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's very prolific with his writing and great communicator on a lot of this stuff.
he
Um,
had a website called Track Your Plaque. He
mm,
wanted people to get their scans done and send them into him because then he wanted to look at their diet, and that's how he came up with Wheat Belly.
you mentioned discontinuing something, and I think that's a really important thing. You know, sometimes people watch my Instagram and like, why aren't you deadlifting or benching or squatting or whatever? Um, I still do some of those movements. I have some representation of those movements. You saw me with the sandbag doing the squat. It's just I squat differently. But I believe what you believe is that if you want to actually truly change, there's some things that you have to leave in the past. There's certain things that you have to discontinue. Maybe you can go back to them, but if your back hurts because you're playing, because you play golf a couple times a week, I'm sorry, but you probably have to discontinue the golf for a little bit.
Golfers
And,
all get scoliosis. You're right,
right.
and they do. But I can't take credit for that. Ron Penna is the one. We were talking years ago, and he said, if you really love something, stop eating it. And it was true for me, like the things that I really craved. And then I'm trying to think of her name now. Irina. I'll think of her last name in a minute. They have a lab up in San Francisco, UCSF, the Convoy Lab. Irina and I think her husband's name is David. And they're the ones that discovered plasma pheresis. Getting the plasma out is more important than changing your diet or anything like that.
Mm.
And she said removing plasma will do more for your longevity than taking a new supplement.
Is that the same as when they like take your blood? Sometimes they'll take your plasma.
Well, I do blood now, whole blood, because when they do plasma pheresis, they spin the red blood cells and put them back in you, and they spin them at like 2200 or 22,000 RPM, and they break some of them. So they're putting like red blood cells back in you that are damaged. And I kind of feel like, you know what? If they take a pint of blood, half of it is plasma, half of it's blood. So I'm getting some of the plasma out. But yeah, plasma. There's actually clinics in Florida that charge $8,000. You come in, they draw the plasma out, spin and throw and the red blood cells and everything, and then they put synthetic plasma back in your body. The cleaner you get the plasma, your what do they call that that they're doing now? The chronological age versus biological age, like it improves. Like a guy my age will show up on a test like a 30-year-old. Wow. So there's something to it, but I still don't think plasma pheresis is the way to go. I think just donate blood once every couple months. That's all. Get that plasma out. Your body remakes plasma in 2 days. It's just some B vitamins and saline, and your body just makes it some amino acids. So you just eat, and next thing you know, in 2 days, the plasma is back.
When you were talking about neuropathy, it reminded me that more recently they've been talking about the calves being like the second heart. What are some of your thoughts on that?
I think the legs are the second heart. I think you can't talk about the calves without talking about the whole leg. I mean, when you have nice big hamstrings and quad development, every step you take, it's helping your heart pump.
Mm.
So just from a sheer volume perspective, I think the calves are second best to the bigger quads.
Yeah, and the way that your legs burn is way different. Like your legs, your calves, they burn differently than your biceps, triceps,
Oh,
lats,
yeah.
right?
And your body can use that lactic acid
Mm.
as an energy source.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing that the body does that, especially as you get more conditioned.
Yes. It'll use lactate instead of glucose.
What's the deal with this 14% buttermilk fat shake that you had? That looked amazing.
It was. I wish I could make them now at home. We were up in Tuscola, Illinois, which is like a food desert. It's farmland and pizza places. That's all it is. And there was a place that Elisa remembers from her childhood because she was born up there.
Mm.
It's called a candy kitchen. It's like an old-fashioned candy factory. Like they make everything right there. And so I just felt like I love malted flavor. I like malt flavor. And I said, "Do you make vanilla malts?" And they made me one. And like you could actually chew the ice cream. It was fucking amazing. I was like, "What kind of ice cream is this?" She goes, "We make it ourselves. It's 14% butterfat." I was like, "Oh my God." And it tasted so good. And I've got to eat more because I need to gain. I walked into the hospital when I was first diagnosed with sepsis with 247 pounds, and that's where I pretty much stayed. I was always between 243 and 247. I walked out of the hospital 181 pounds.
Wow.
I look between my Amish beard because I just stopped shaving. It was just fucking hard for me to stand in front of the mirror and shave. And I just bought an electric razor I'm going to start using. But I look oh shit, this is what I'm going to look like when I fucking die. Like I look like an old man now. So I'm not as strict, and and you've made some great breakthroughs on sugar is not evil, and
Right. Yeah, I think for a little while it'd be good just for you to eat up for a little bit and it's just like, enjoy the food, but still, keep all the principles there, get your protein in, stuff like that.
so there's a company here in town called Graders, and they make ice cream with 12% butterfat. And I'm
Nuts.
going to get a pint, and I'm going to make with your powder, your malt powder, the carnivore powder. And
Yep.
I'm going to make a healthy milkshake out of it. Have one every day.
That'll be amazing. What are you doing with your food and stuff? Are you just kind of like, because to eat more is probably going to be a little bit of a challenge. Have you thought about any type of peptides or anything
Oh,
like that to
definitely.
increase appetite?
Yes. I'm not using them yet, but I am going to start using them because I have to plan my meals.
Like
But
there's that SARM or whatever, that the growth hormone one, right?
GHRP6 is a powerful appetite inducing, and I use that with CJC 1295, and you got to use it a few times a day, like 10 or 15 minutes before your meal, and you'll fucking eat your fingers if you're not careful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna help you pack on some weight. Where's your weight right now?
I'm somewhere close to 200 pounds right now.
That's great.
Yeah, it's okay. I between the androgens I'm using, I'm not eating enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not.
And
Because
the
there was
appetite.
yeah, I have no appetite, but the androgens, well, the work increases my appetite. Going to the gym every morning, I'm going to have to start making it a point to go every morning. Because then I'll have a huge, because after I work out, I usually have 6 eggs and a New York strip steak at my favorite little restaurant. Post workout, I could devour that easily.
Right.
I can't do that if I didn't train. But I could use the CJC and the GHRP to stimulate appetite.
What do you think are some other peptides that people maybe aren't, super aware of. Some of the other ones you just mentioned, like CJC and stuff. I hear people talk about those, but like, what are some of the things that those things do?
Well, I'm going to tell you the one for those of us who are interested in building muscle, and that is oxytocin. But you can't take it systemically because you'll get a mad head rush and you'll feel dizzy for a while. So what I discovered, first of all, why oxytocin? The reason trenbolone works is because it increases oxytocin production in the body 50-fold, 50.
Wow.
These studies were done on cows, they were done on humans, and the Convoy Lab, the first time I ever interviewed Irina and her husband, they did a study on oxytocin in rodents that their muscles recovered faster when they were given oxytocin post-workout. But the right way to do oxytocin, so you could do large enough doses to influence muscles, is local. If you want your biceps to grow, train your biceps, and post-workout, you inject a couple micrograms in each muscle, just enough so it stays in there and works. But the reason tren builds muscle, and remember, trenbolone is the only androgen to show that it deploys new muscle stem cells. No other androgen does that. And so you could get the same effects as tren without the night sweats, the sleeplessness. I never got rage from it at all. It totally jacked my sleep up. And I got night sweats. You can just inject oxytocin locally, just a couple micrograms in each muscle. And if you have a partner who works out, your wife trains too, she can shoot your lats for you after you train back. I mean, oxytocin is one of the peptides. Well, first of all, it's the only truly anabolic peptide. Only. Ipamorelin, people like hawking ipamorelin on the internet saying, oh, it'll build muscle. Well, fucking growth hormone doesn't build muscle. It makes you recover faster so you could train again, but it doesn't build muscle. It'll keep soft tissue growing, ligaments and tendons and
it's usually the insulin. It's usually the guys doing the growth and the insulin. That
yes.
Mass,
Yes, absolutely. But I don't recommend experimenting with insulin unless you're working with somebody who knows how to avoid a diabetic coma.
Right. Oxytocin, this is like a sexual hormone too. So like you're going to feel...
It's the bonding hormone.
Okay.
And every time you have an orgasm, you bond with that person and it's created. Every time you pet your fucking dog, your body produces oxytocin. It's the bonding hormone.
Well, if you're on it just comes from lifting.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. I'm sure I produced oxytocin when I was lifting. I was so fucking excited.
Right. Does that is that like a weird feeling like when you take oxytocin? Or you mentioned like
if you take it systemically, if you take I think the most I ever used systemically was 70 IUs. And if I remember correctly, every IU is 36 micrograms, something like that. It's been a long time. I'll do the math and send it to you after the show. So if you do a big dose of oxytocin, it gives you a fucking head rush. Like you feel like you got to sit down, and people get worried. They're thinking, oh shit, should I go to the hospital? No, just wait it out. Just wait it out. And that's if you do a systemic dose. That's why local doses is the way to go. Maybe somebody who's listening to the show will do some experiments and take credit for it.
Right. You were mentioning melanotan too as well, and that's one that can kind of make you feel weird and give you like chills. It does feel like you got sun exposure. Is kind of what it feels like.
Yes.
But then it can help.
You take a large enough dose. If you have erectile dysfunction, you take 1 milligram of melanotan 2. Get right in the shower after you take it, because you'll become all flush. And while you're taking the shower, you don't feel the flushing and you don't feel nauseous. But the first time I ever used melanotan 2, I took like 1.5 milligrams. I had my daughter that night. I was going through a divorce. I had to call my ex and say, I can't have her tonight. I had an erection for like 4 hours. I had to call a girlfriend that I was dating to come over and help me, because it was like the best. Melanotan, if people started using melanotan, all this Viagra and shit would go by the wayside, because it gives you an amazing libido too. It doesn't just give you a hard penis and, what do I do now? It like gives you a libido as well.
So how are you going to pack this muscle back on? How are we going to get you back up to what, like at least 220?
I'm doing it. I'm going to stay at 600 mgs of androgens. I'm going to keep using my growth hormone. I use growth hormone erratically, because I found out it works better when you don't do the same dose every day. That was taken from a study on children with short stature. I'm trying to think what hospital did this study. So these kids get 20 IUs of growth hormone a week. And so they were doing it even on equally distributed amounts per day. So they just started doing it erratically. Like one day the kid would get 5 IUs, the next day he'd get 10, the next day he'd get 1. Those kids who got the erratic dosing had the greatest growth trajectory. Same total weekly amount. So I use growth hormone erratically. Some days I'll take 3 IUs, some 1, some days 2, some days 5, and I find that to work the best.
Yeah, I'm excited for some of your inventions and some of your different things to really hit the market. I know you've been having some success already with Gun Leash. There seems to be a lot of interest because there's a lot of people lose their weapons. As crazy as that sounds, it happens often, right? And then also you and I've been talking about a type of testosterone that you've been working on for many years.
So I came up with the idea of microdosing testosterone daily when I had John Chrysler on the show in 2011, before he committed suicide. Said what happened to him, because he contributed a lot to men's health. And I was using I was using an oil-based testosterone, which is what most of these guys are talking about. Well, Justin and I have been working on a testosterone made to be used daily. It's in an aqueous solution, and it has like a 10-hour curve, and then it disappears. And so that is the way it should work, but nobody has that. Everybody is using oil, and oil releases too slow and for too long when you do sub-Q. So, and we're getting close. It's been difficult. It's been difficult to come up with a vehicle.
Yours is going to be almost, you could say, like a little bit more bioidentical to how testosterone.
It will, exactly. And I have some guys that were old powerlifters. They're telling me, why don't you just use suspension? And I was like, have you ever fucking injected suspension? It hurts I used to wonder if the nose torque or the injection of testosterone suspension is what really made guys fucking start jiggling,
Right. Yeah, testosterone suspension like leaves giant welts all over you.
Oh my God. It's basically like shoving powder in your muscle. That's what it is. But it works.
What do you think the strongest steroid you've ever taken is? I know you talked about Trend, but there's other stuff out there. There's like Halo and some other gnarly things out there.
I think NPP is really strong. Nandrolone phenylpropionate has all the benefits of nandrolone, but not the downsides of undecoinate. So it hits you hard, it hits you fast, it's gone quickly. But if you mix it in an oil base with a larger dose of testosterone, it's when that bubble touches the skin, it releases by way of hydrolysis. So if it's mixed in with other testosterone or other androgens, it kind of time releases it. And so I like NPP because you don't get the deca dick from it. because you're not taking that. It's only 100 milligrams a milliliter. I use a milliliter of the testosterone blend. I use is 400 mgs a milliliter, and then I use 2 milliliters of NPP. Mix it in there. That
And
gives me.
NPP, is that similar to DECA in a sense that
Well,
it's
it is.
ligaments and
It
tendons?
is. But it's the phenylpropionate ester. It's faster acting.
And you still get some of the benefits though of the ligaments and tendons. That's why people like DECA.
Joints, yeah,
The
joints.
right, okay.
And it releases about the same. Anthony Roberts, you really need to have him on the show. Have you had him on the show?
I've had him on before, but yeah, it'd be great to have him on again.
Well, Anthony wrote a book way back in the day called Anabolic Steroids, the Ultimate Research Guide. I still have a copy of it. It's not in print anymore. But Anthony understands the pharmacodynamics and what these drugs really do, what they mix well with. You need to have him on. I wanted to have him on I wanted to get him to come on with me one time, because between the two of us, like, the thing you got to be careful with is a lot of guys are talking about microdosing testosterone right now. So the only way you can microdose it properly is to do it daily. I'm worried that guys are going to take 80 milligrams of testosterone and try to shoot it once every 4 days, because that'll actually make you hypogonadal. There's a study that shows 150 milligrams once a week makes you hypogonadal because it shuts down the HPT axis. So you stop producing your own testosterone. So after the first shot, you feel pretty good. Around the second and third shot, you're like, why don't I feel good anymore? Well, because before you were filling in, you weren't depending on the dose you were taking to carry you through. Now you have to depend on that dose, and it's not enough. Because what a lot of people don't understand is 100 milligrams of test SIP is only 67 milligrams of testosterone. The rest is the ester. And testosterone cypionate and enanthate don't release linearly. You get 50% of the dose in the first 3 days. And then over the course of the next 28 days, you get the rest of the dose. Think about that. I mean, 28 days, I mean, it's releasing so slow. And so doctors don't even realize it. That's why when doctors back in the day, they used to give you a 200 milligram shot once a week, you felt like shit by the end of the week.
These TRT dosages, you don't agree with them, it sounds like.
It depends. If they're doing the math and they're doing it with regularity, where, bodybuilders had it right. You did 2 shots a week every 3 days, because the first 3 days you get 50% of the dose, and then it starts to dip. So if you take another one on the 4th day, this is it. It's staying up here. I don't know if you can.
Yeah.
But you want the pulse.
Mm-hmm.
So a doctor that I've interviewed a few times, and I just introduced him to some other people that are going to start teaching his course. Dr. Samuel Denmead, he's with Harvard. He cures prostate cancer with testosterone. What he does is he gives the guy like a shot, like 600 milligrams, and rides that out for a couple of weeks. So you have this artificial pulse. Artificial pulse. And we've talked about it. I said, so theoretically, men develop prostate cancer when they lose that pulse. How do they lose it? Well, first of all, testosterone production starts to drop. More aromatase is stealing the testosterone, turning it into estrogen. So they don't have a daily pulse anymore. It's like this. And that's when the prostate goes awry. What he discussed, in fact, I named his therapy on my show. I called it bipolar testosterone therapy, because we're observing the polarity, the pulse, and reinstilling it. So I talked to him about my testosterone. He says, if you produce it, I'll do a study with it. So I got Justin working on it, and Justin is going to put an office in Ron's new building, and I'm going next week to Ron's, most likely to stay there for a while.
Yeah.
And we're going to start doing the podcast again, but it's going to be under the either BioShift or Legendary name. But
great.
I know. Yeah. I need to fucking get back to what works for me. I mean, I'm still following through with Gun Leash. I'm not stopping that because we're going to save lives. But I need to start getting back into the sphere that I used to be in because I love this shit.
You love it. And, you know, it's important that, you know, people always talk about like ego or somebody, you know, somebody be too confident, someone being cocky. But those are important features. Those are important things to have. And maybe like, you know, maybe you don't do it in some rude way that like, you know, messes with other people or whatever. But if you do it in the way that you've been doing it for years and years, you can stay attached to your ego in a very healthy way. And I think it's good to go into the gym and lift some weight and feel like you can kick everyone's ass. Now, of course, you understand that you can't beat up a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. It's just a feeling. Then you're not going to act on it. You're not going to go and fight anybody. Oh, maybe you will. But you see my point. Like it's just a feeling.
Yeah. You know, I've admitted that I have been kind of a douchebag from time to time because I'm jealous of the guys that are doing so good with stuff that I talked about. Like I introduced methylene blue to the United States and probably abroad in 2010. But like when I say to you, well, I learned that from Ron Penna. Nobody ever fucking does that with me. Nobody ever says, oh yeah, this is something Carl Lanore talked about on SuperTraining Radio 9 years ago. Nobody. I mean, you know me. I say I'm the Rodney Dangerfield of fitness podcasting. Yeah. Nobody gives me any fucking credit. No.
You have it documented though. You know, you have it and it's there and you're going to continue on and hopefully maybe this second push, this second go of Superhuman Radio brings, you know, sheds some light on the fact that you talked about, you know, Fedosia, Agresta and all these other things 20 years ago.
Right.
You know, you've been talking about a lot of these things 20 years ago. You've had every guest on your show, every guest that you can find in every nook and cranny of every little tiny space you've had on your show. You've had people talk about walking, running, lifting, steroids, peptides. I mean, you've been ahead of the curve. And when I brought your name up to Alex Kikel, he was like, oh my God. He's like, I've been learning from that guy forever. He goes, yeah, I'd love to talk to that guy.
Yeah, but he's fucking smart. I mean, he's way above. He is so fucking.
Yeah. He's able to really.
I love people like that. I love fucking people like that because I can learn from them.
And some of my other friends too, that some of these guys that are a little younger, you'd be surprised. They definitely have watched your show, and they're not watching your show and taking it and trying to, you know, put the stuff public, claiming that it's theirs. These are more of my friends that are a little bit more underground. But my other friend Andy Triana, Super Brain.
Oh, I've had him on the show. Brilliant guy. Holy shit. Yes.
He's a tough act to follow sometimes with how intelligent he is.
Yeah. He appropriately named.
Thanks so much for today, and I'm going to probably see you hopefully I'll see you in Los Angeles. Hopefully we run into each other, and maybe we can even work out together or something. Who knows?
I'd love that. I would really love that.
I have a bunch of stuff to show you, a bunch of stuff to go over with you.
I love you, Mark.
I love you too, Carl. Thank you so much for being on the show today. You're a great friend, and I appreciate it.